Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be getting into the fall mood and talking about this new Too Faced Pumpkin Spice palette. I'm going to have 5 looks to share with you. I used almost every shade in the palette except for 2 of them. And I'm also going to be comparing this to the original Gingerbread Spice and Gingerbread Extra Spicy from the previous 2 years. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. First, let's take a look at the palette itself. It comes in the tin packaging, which I happen to love their palettes that come in this packaging. The formula is always so extra good compared to their other palettes. I don't know why, but I love this formula. And inside this palette, you have a beautiful variety of shades. You have the warm tones like the oranges and yellows and warm browns. Then you have some beautiful greens and some purples. And I saw so many people on social media complaining about the purples in this palette, saying that purple has no business being in a fall palette, that it looks like a spring release. But I have to say, living in New England, I don't know where you guys are from, but here there's actually a lot of purple in the fall. Think about purple leaves that you see falling on the ground, or those purple pumpkins and gourds that you see hanging around, or there's the purple corn like that people hang from their door. There's definitely some purple in those, or even the purple mums that you see on people's porches along with their Halloween displays and stuff. So I see a ton of purple around here in the fall time. And I also think purple happens to go beautifully with orange. I think that contrast of warm and cool looks really pretty. Not to mention, if Too Faced used the same warm tones that they used in some of the other palettes that they did, everybody would complain that the colors were the same. So they did something a little bit different this time. People still complain, but you know what? It's like, they can't win at the end of the day. But when it comes to me personally, I love the variety that you get in here. I love that there are like those really pretty spring colors. I can pretty much wear this palette year round, whereas something like the Gingerbread Extra Spicy that has mostly those deeper, richer warm tones, I tend to only pull this out in the fall and winter time. So I really like this, and I think you can create tons and tons of looks with it. So just some quick notes on the formula. First of all, this smells exactly like pumpkin spice. The other two were supposed to kind of smell like gingerbread. To me, they smelled like vanilla. They reminded me of the Scent in a Tart palettes. So I don't know, it wasn't really gingerbread for me, but this one smells just like pumpkin spice. So it's definitely a point of difference with that. Also, I think that across the board, the formula is beautiful. The matte shades are fantastic. Also, most of the shimmer shades are very creamy, rich, and buttery. There actually aren't that many shimmer shades in this palette compared to the others. There's only 6 out of 18. So not a lot to choose from. And 2 of them, this pink one up here, and then this green, are a little bit more of a subtle shimmer shade. They're not like super metallic. They're almost kind of like a satiny finish versus a true shimmer. And then you have this one, which is more of like a metallic, and this has more of a flaky texture, whereas these 2 are really smooth. And then these 3 down on the bottom here, this one is beautiful. I think that this pink shimmer is, again, so smooth, rich, creamy, and buttery. These 2 purples, though, are more flaky again. So they're a little bit harder to apply, I think, without a ton of fallout. That was my microphone. But when it comes to these 2 purple shimmers, I did also feel like these were a little bit more chunky, and you really have to kind of pack them on your eye versus swipe them on. So I found that I kind of had to layer them up just because of that crumbly texture that they have to get the most color impact, or you could wet them and that might help a little bit as well. So for me, the purples were a little bit underwhelming in this palette, unfortunately. You can definitely make them work, but just know that they have like more of that flaky texture. They're a little harder to pick up, and you do need to just kind of layer them a bit. But other than the shimmer shades having more of a different formula amongst the different shades, the mattes are very consistent and really beautiful. If you struggle with blending, these make it very, very easy. So that's one of the things I really love about Too Faced's formula. So why don't we go ahead now and get into a comparison between this one and then the other 2 palettes that came out, because a lot of people were saying that this kind of looks like a combination of the 2, and there are definitely some similar shades, which I'm going to highlight separately. But first, I'll just show you the 2 side by side. We have Gingerbread Spice, the original one, and the Pumpkin Spice palette. And I do definitely see some similarities between these 2, but also a lot of differences. I think that, you know, I see that hot pink that kind of jumps out at me that is in both palettes, and the orange and some of the browns. But again, there is quite a bit of difference between these as well. I think the Pumpkin Spice palette is lighter overall, while the Gingerbread Spice goes a little bit deeper. And then when it comes to the Gingerbread Extra Spicy, I also see a lot of similarities between these two palettes. I think you have that bright orange that pops out again, some of the browns, that yellow that's in both palettes, that kind of mustardy yellow color. So those are similar things, but I think overall the Extra Spicy is a really, really warm tone palette, while the Pumpkin Spice has a lot of those cool tones mixed in. So that's the biggest point of difference for me between these two. But just quickly, because those big swatches are a little bit overwhelming, I want to just quickly break down some individual shades in each palette that I think compare across the board. So first up, we have the 3 matte ivory shades. We have Whipped Cream in the Pumpkin Spice palette, Powdered Sugar in the Gingerbread palette, and then Vanilla Wafers in Extra Spicy. And I think all 3 of these are incredibly similar to each other. I mean, they kind of have slightly different undertones, but on the eye, I'm thinking they would probably look very close to each other. And then the next one you're looking at is 2 swatches. You have Fall For It in the Pumpkin Spice palette and In a Pinch in Extra Spicy. Again, I just wanted to compare these two because I think they are very similar. The one in the Extra Spicy palette is slightly deeper, but I think once it's blended out on the eye, it would probably look the same. And then the next one is also a comparison with Extra Spicy. You have the shade Pumpkin Spice in the Pumpkin Spice palette and Butterscotch in Extra Spicy. Again, I think the one in the Pumpkin Spice palette is maybe a little bit brighter, while the Extra Spicy one is more muted, but I think, again, blended out, these would look super close. So the next one you're looking at is a bright orange from each of the 3 palettes. You have Ginger Spice in the Pumpkin Spice palette, Spice is Nice in Gingerbread, and then Extra Spicy in the Extra Spicy palette. And again, I think these are all incredibly close to each other. Next up, we have a warm brown from each of the 3 palettes. We have Spice Spice Baby in the Pumpkin Spice. We have Gingerbread in the Gingerbread palette and Gingerbread Glam in the Extra Spice palette. And these, again, super close to each other. Then we have the hot pinks in each palette. We have You Spicy in the Pumpkin Spice palette. We have Gumdrop in the Gingerbread Spice. And then we have Hot Tamale in the Extra Spicy. And I think while these, again, vary slightly with the undertones, I think they would look really close on the eyes. And then last but not least, I wanted to show some of the dark browns in each palette. So we have Cocoa Drizzle in the Pumpkin Spice palette, Reindeer Paws in the Gingerbread Spice, and then Cookie Call in the Extra Spicy. And these, I think, would look super similar on the eyes too. So hopefully that helped to kind of narrow things down a little bit and show you where the similarities are. If you didn't get either the Gingerbread Extra Spicy or the Gingerbread Spice palette, but you liked some of the colors that were in here, you're getting very similar shades in Pumpkin Spice. But if you already do own these, you may kind of feel like Pumpkin Spice has too many repeats for you, or you might not care about that. That decision is going to be totally up to you, but I just wanted to give you as much information as I possibly could. All right, so next up I have 5 looks to share with you, and I didn't actually film myself doing each look. I only filmed the final result because I did them all the exact same way. So I put a shade in my crease, a shade in the outer corner of my eye, and then a shimmer shade on the lid. So every look has 3 shades and they all follow that exact same formula. I just felt like the video was going to be way too long if I filmed myself doing each one. If this was just a video on 5 looks for the Pumpkin Spice palette, I definitely would have done it, but I just think it would have been overkill. But I am going to show you quickly the shades that I used, as well as show swatches of the 3 shades for each look next to each other, just so you can see the shades grouped all together. So for look number 1, I started out with A La Mode, which is a beautiful dusty pink matte. And then I dipped into the shade Warm and Cozy for my outer corner, which is a deep brick red matte. And then I used the shade Oh My Gourd, which is a beautiful shimmery pink for my lid. And this look came out beautiful. I really love this one a lot. This was actually the first look that I did, and I just loved how pretty and feminine this one came out. Next we have look number 2. So I started out using the shade Sweetie Pie in my crease, which is that greenish yellow matte. And then I put Cocoa Drizzle in my outer corner, and then Falling For You, which is that beautiful green satin on my lid. And here's what that one came out like. I really love this one as well. It's very fall inspired, and I love green eyeshadows anyway, so I was super excited for this one. And I think that shade Falling For You is so beautiful because even though it's a green, it's very muted and very wearable. And then next for look number 3, I started out with the shade Pumpkin Spice, which is that beautiful yellow matte, and I put this one in my crease, and then I used the shade Ginger Spice, which is that bright orange, for my outer corner. And then I used Fall Vibes, which is that beautiful metallic green on my lid. So this one kind of takes the green from being a little bit more muted to a little bit brighter, a little bit more fall inspired. And this lid shade is one of the most metallic in the palette, if not the most metallic. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It makes more of an impact, and I loved how all of these colors came together. Next up, we have look number 4. I started out with the shade Fall For It in my crease, which is a really beautiful peachy matte shade. And then for the outer corner, I used the shade You Spicy, which is the hot pink. And then for my lid, I used the shade Want a Piece of Me, which is a beautiful lavender shimmer shade. And this one, I wasn't sure how it was all gonna come together with the peach and the hot pink and the purple, but I actually really love the way that it came out. It's a little different, but I think it really worked. I was trying to use as many different shades as I could within the palette, so these were kind of ones that I just threw together at the last minute because it's what I had left to work with, but I really ended up enjoying this one a lot. And then last but not least is the eye look that I'm wearing today. So I started out with the shade Love You Latte, which is a mid-tone mauve matte. And then I went into the shade Spice of Life, which is the deep matte purple shade. And then for my lid shade, I used PSL and Chill. And here's what that one looked like. I also really, really love this look. I was a little disappointed in the lid shade just because I was hoping that this one would be a little bit more vibrant. But as I said earlier, this one has a really crumbly texture, and I did have to pat it onto my lid and do like multiple coats to get it to show up a little bit more. But I do really like how the look came out in the end. So anyway, my final thoughts on the new Pumpkin Spice palette are that I absolutely love it. Even though it has some repeats from the other two, I love those. So of course I was gonna love this one, and I think it has enough variety in here to make it different, and I can wear this one all year round. I guess if I can stand to smell pumpkin spice in the springtime, which remains to be seen, but hopefully it'll be okay. It's not like I can smell it once it's actually on my eyes, so I think I'll probably be good. But other than a couple of little quirky shades formula-wise, I do think the formula is amazing on this one. And like I said, I just love the variety. As you saw with the looks, you can get so many different looks with this palette, a much wider range than something like Extra Spicy, where everything pretty much comes out looking warm toned and kind of like a warm brown orange type of mix. I do think the original Gingerbread Spice had a nice mix of warm and cool tones as well, but this one kind of runs a little bit deeper overall, which is great for the fall and winter, or great also if you have a deeper skin tone, whereas somebody like me, like usually I don't want to go for things that are too deep, especially in the spring and summertime. I'm basically sticking to those more smoky colors in the fall, but even then I don't wear a smoky eye very often. So I tend to love palettes that have a lighter color story like this one. But the nice thing about it is it also does have a couple of deep shades that I can put in my outer corner as well. So I just think it's a very well-rounded palette, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So anyway, guys, I hope you liked this video and found it helpful. If you did, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this down in the comments below as well, whether you picked this up already or whether you're planning to, or if you're gonna skip it. Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me today. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you go, and I'll see you all in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye.